Perfect. Okay. So, what we're going to go over today is how to use the phones, how to take transfer calls. And then we will also go over kind of a review of the app. If someone wants to put the app on their PC or put the app on their cell phone, they can make and take calls from those as well. It just ties it to your extension. I am recording this session, so afterwards you'll receive a link, and I will also forward you a link that's downloadable so that you can save it and then you can use it in the future. If you get a new employee and you teach them how, you can just have them watch the video.
Perfect.
Okay, I am gonna zoom in on this. Annotate. So this is the Fanvil phone. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the buttons on the phone so you know what they do. Some of them are symbols and it's just a little awkward to try to figure out what they are. And the user guide does help and to remind
Hmm.
you of what those are. But that way, when I talk about them later, you'll be like, oh, I remember her talking about that button. It's this one. Okay. So the first button you have here is this book. This is a contact button. So this is actually the same as this button up here. This allows you to
Hmm.
store contacts in your phone the same way you do your cell phone. So you can have usernames in there with a telephone number associated. And when you click either of those buttons, it will take you in and let you view who you have programmed and then call them through that.
Okay.
These are
Okay.
per phone. So every phone is different. If you program a button in here or program a Jimmy John's in here that's only on your phone, it is not a shared directory. Okay? The one below that
Okay.
is a little envelope. That is your voicemail button. So whenever you have a light up here at the top, mine example is red. Um, this means
Hmm.
that I have a new voicemail message. So I can actually press this envelope button and it will take me into my voicemail.
Okay.
Below that, there is a plus and a minus button. This is a rocker button that controls your volume. So anytime you're, whatever function you're in, it's going to control that volume. So when you're talking on your handset, it will turn that volume up and down. It stays where you leave it. So if you crank it up really high, that's where it's going to be the next time you use it. And likewise, over here on the far right, there's another button. This is your hands free or your speaker button. If you talk, if you press this, it turns green. That means you're talking through your speaker, which is right underneath this handset. It's hard to see. But if you turn the volume up when you're talking on speaker, it controls that volume and it stays where you leave it. They're independent of each other and they don't override each other. Same with
Okay.
voicemail. When you're in your voicemail, it also controls that volume.
Okay.
Okay. If your phone's idle and you come and you press this button, it will adjust your ringing tone. Like it'll turn your volume of the ringing up and down. So if you don't do
Okay.
anything, if you want to adjust your handset, be on your handset and on a call, and then you can adjust it. But if you just walk up to your phone and change it, it's going to do, you'll hear the ringer, and that will save your ringing volume. So
Okay.
I'm going to hop over here to the right hand side and we're going to do this button right here. That's the two circles with an arrow. This is your redial button. If you press this, it's just going to call the last phone number that you dialed. Rather, if it was an internal extension or an outside number, it will literally just call whatever extension you dialed last or telephone.
Yeah.
The one
Can you
right up
hold on for me one
above that.
second?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Hmm.
So let me ask you this on the
Hmm.
redial, and this may just,
Yeah.
I don't know. So, like on the phones we have now, like it'll come through and I can redial and it'll just dial the number direct. But if it doesn't recognize or doesn't automatically add like a one, so would that be true still with this phone too? Like, because like you would normally have to put a one. For us, like if we were called Kansas, it's 913, but you got to put the one in there. But
Mm.
when it comes across, it
Typically,
would just come across as 913.
typically that will still go through on this phone system. The 816-913, it will still go through. Um,
Okay.
it works a lot like your cell phone. Like on your cell phone, you don't always have to put a one in, but that
Yeah.
could be a possibility. Um,
Okay. I mean, it's not a big, it's obviously not a game changer. I would just
yeah,
ask just because it's kind of a pain in the, I mean, you go to redial and you're like, oh crap, I got to put the stupid one in there. So I just
yeah.
didn't know.
No,
It was just, I was just
this
thinking,
I haven't had any
okay.
problems with that with 913 or 816 because we're the same way. So,
Okay.
yeah, it
Perfect.
usually goes through just fine.
All right.
Okay, the
Perfect.
one above this one is red on my example, but that's just because of the example. This is on when it's red. This is mute. It looks like an old-fashioned microphone with a line through it. It disables your
Uh huh.
microphone when it's pressed. So
Okay.
It's hard to tell, but the microphone's like down here along the bottom. It's like a little pinhole. So as long as it's
Mhm.
red, you can say whatever you want. They cannot hear you.
Okay,
If
so
you're
red
talking,
is mute. Okay.
red is mute. If you are on your speakerphone and you press this, both
Mhm.
of those buttons would be lit like this. You would still hear the caller talking, but they cannot hear you as long as this is red.
Okay.
Okay. Above that, there is a headset button. In my example, it's lit green. Most of the time, it's not lit at all. There is a jack on the back of the phone that will allow you to plug in a wired headset. These phones are also
Okay.
Bluetooth compatible. So if you had a headset connected to this in some way, you would press this when you want to use your headset because then you can answer and
Oh,
hang up.
I gotcha.
Okay. Let's hop up here. We're going to talk about the display a little bit. Here in the middle, it has the date and the time. So it's always going to show that when it's idle, but when your phone is ringing, that is where the caller ID will show. This will go away and it will show you the name and the number of the person who's
Okay.
calling you. Okay. Up here in this corner, you've kind of got this, it's supposed to be a monitor with a plug. To me, it looks like a castle. This white
Uh,
icon, this just means that you're connected to the internet, which is good. You always want this symbol up there. The only time
okay.
that there would be something wrong is if this turned a different color or if it ended up with like a little triangle symbol on top of it. That would mean that there's something
Okay.
wrong and you would want to check the plugs on the back of your phone. And I'll show you where those are here in just
Okay.
a second.
All right.
So this icon is good. You always want that on there. Over here on the other side, in my example, my extension is 123. That's why it says 123 in that top right hand corner. So that will
Okay.
always be there. We'll show your extension. On my example here, I've got these two buttons. Mine is labeled 123 and SIP2. And they will really be, both of these will be labeled with your extension. These are your in and out buttons, basically your talk paths. Anytime your phone
Mhm.
rings, you're going to see the caller ID here. This button will light up. It will flash at you to let you know you have a call. And when you answer a call, this will change and it will show you that phone number. So that would be your talk path one. If you received a second
Okay.
call, you would see it. You would hear a beep in your ear, like call waiting. This would change again and show you that caller ID. You could then put this first call on hold and then answer the second one if you wanted to. Okay.
Okay.
So the phone system can get more calls than that. You have a voice path. You can have as many simultaneous calls as you have users. But I give you two talk paths just so that you can handle two calls on your phone at once. If for some reason a third call came in, it's still going to ring. It would just, in order for you to answer it on your phone, you would need to clear up one of these. So either end one of the calls or transfer it to get it somewhere else. And then that third one would come to you. Okay. So when you're on
Otherwise,
this
it'll
phone,
just go to. Otherwise,
voice,
it'll just
the
go to
auto
voicemail.
attendant. Yep, correct.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
Um,
Perfect.
and these are your two talk paths. If you're sitting at your phone, if there's another phone in the
Mhm.
office, it has its own two talk paths. They are not linked to each other. They are not like individual lines because your phones are cloud phones. They are virtual paths, so there's not really lines associated to them. Every time you call
Okay.
out, it's going to have your main phone number, so you don't have to worry about that. Um, but just know that if for some reason another call comes in, when you clear up one of these, if you're the only person there to answer calls, it'll come to you eventually once you get those cleared up. Sometimes people worry, like,
Okay.
what's going to happen? Don't worry about it. If you can't get to it, it'll go to roll to voicemail eventually.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Um, so you have a bunch of other buttons on here. These are examples, like this is a speed dial for an outside line. Um, there's some other, this is another user on the system. So you can have your buttons programmed with other things, and I'll talk to you about how to do that when we go over the admin portal. But you might notice over here,
Okay.
this button looks a little bit different. It says 123. And that's because we have all these buttons programmed. It actually lets you have 3 pages of buttons. So you're not limited to just these 8 that you see. So I can actually press this button and it will go to page 2 and it'll give you a whole new set of 8 buttons. And then I have a third
Oh,
page.
okay.
So if you had somebody, I'm just going to say Bob, for example, if you were another user on the system, if you had a button for Bob, you would actually be able to tell if he were on the phone because that button would be red. But what if he was on page 2? You can change this while you're talking to somebody. It doesn't make any noise. The caller doesn't notice. So you can press this, and if he's on page 2, then you could be like, "Oh, his button's red. I'm sorry, Bob's not available." Okay. So you have multiple
Okay.
pages of buttons, plenty to work with. Down here, I call this my home row. They call these soft keys. So in the user guide, refer to them as soft keys. This row will change with you based on what you're doing. So when your phone's idle, it's going to have these four options. The first one is call log. This is your call history. So, and it stores well over 100 calls. When it fills up, it pushes the oldest one out. It stores inbound calls and outbound calls, right? So,
Okay.
if you made a call out yesterday and you're like, I wonder what was that number that I dialed? I didn't write it down right. You could actually press this call log button. Anytime you get into one of these, it's going to change this whole display. You use this button. Doesn't look much like a button, but it's actually a navigation pad. It lets you scroll left and right and up and down, right? So when you press your
Mhm.
call log, it'll pull up a list and you can scroll through it using this big center circle button. The black part in the
Okay.
middle, yours won't have this white circle. I don't know why mine does. This is actually a select button. So you can press this middle and it will select whatever entry you're on. So you could scroll through, find that call from yesterday, select it, and then this will change and you'll have options that are like dial or erase. You don't have to erase them. Sometimes people are like, do I need to clear it out every once in a while? No, it fills up and pushes the oldest ones out on its own, but you can if you want to.
Okay.
It is helpful though if you need to find a phone number from the other day because it stores so many. Next to call log, you've got that contact button, which again is very similar to this button. It just pulls up your list of contacts that you have saved in your phone. But again, if you want to pull
Mhm.
up that list, you're going to use the navigation button to scroll through it. This one here is do not disturb. When you press this button, it actually puts a little icon right here next to the castle. It's a circle with a line through it, like a no symbol. If you press do not
Mhm.
disturb, it stops your phone from ringing. Any calls directly to your extension will go to your voicemail box. If you're a part of the
Okay.
inbound ring group, though, like if all the phones ring on an inbound call, you can be in do not disturb and it just won't ring you. It will still ring the other people and they can answer. So this is just for
Okay.
your personal calls. And you press it once to turn it on and it'll put that icon up here and then you press it again to turn it off.
Okay.
This last button is menu. Underneath menu, when you press this again, it changes your whole display. That'll put like, I think it's like 6 circles up here. And the very first one will be right here. And it's going to say basic. So most of the things you're going to do would be underneath basic. You can, if you needed to change the time zone you're in, it'll be set for central, but that's one of the things you could do in there. You can adjust your contrast if your screen's too dark or you have a glare, something you can adjust that. You can change your ringtone in there. There's a lot of other buttons that come underneath
Mhm.
menu, but you won't need to mess with them. Sometimes, if you're having problems, a technician might have you press it and ask you to navigate to some
Mhm.
screens on there. But most of the things you get into is underneath basic.
Okay.
Okay, so let me pop over here. Turn off my pop over into this user guide. I can show you this picture. This picture is just what's inside the box. The technicians will put your phones together. And when you go live on the 11th, they'll be delivering them and putting them in for you. So they'll put it together. You don't need to worry
Mhm.
about that. But I do like to kind of
Okay.
zoom in on this picture a little bit. So this will show you the back of the phone. There's a bunch of plugs on the back. And I wanted to point out this one right here. It says internet. It's this plug right here. He is going to plug
Mhm.
the data jack from the wall into this port here. This is the most important
Okay.
one. This is what makes your phone work. If you ever move your phone, you have to make sure you plug things back into the correct place. Or if for some reason you're having a problem, these are just little computers now. So often I would say just unplug this internet, count to 10 slowly, plug it back in. It's kind of like rebooting your computer. Okay.
Right.
The second one here, if you have a computer that needs to share the data jack, if you don't have 2 data jacks in the wall, this passes internet through. So you may have a plug-in here too. It also works for like if you have a printer at your desk or something that needs access to the internet, you can share that jack in the wall. Okay, so you may have something
Okay.
plugged in there too. Of course, if you have a headset, it would go in this jack, and then the curly cord for the handset goes in this one. The guys will have this all put
Yep.
together
Oh,
for you, but just like to point
okay.
out, they also come with a power adapter. You may need them, you may not. The guys will know. He will plug it in. If you do, make sure if you move the phone that you take that with you because otherwise your phone won't work. And
Right.
then
Okay.
lastly, there is a USB port on the back. This would be sometimes you have a headset that's USB, you might need to plug in there, but you can also just plug your cord for your charge your phone if you needed to. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Just some handy tools to have. Okay, let me scroll down here. So the very first page of this user guide, it goes in a weird order that I would normally go in, but it starts with Wi-Fi. These phones are Wi-Fi enabled. So if you had a place where you didn't have a data jack, a technician can program it to connect to your Wi-Fi and work. I do always say plugging into the wall is the best way for your phone to work, just because sometimes Wi-Fi is not as reliable, but they are
Right.
capable of doing that, which is nice to know. Um, then the next section here is voicemail box setup. So these phones, as soon as the technician gets them plugged in, the voicemail will work. You can take messages on any of the phones. They will just have a generic voicemail list like extension 1, 2, 3, 4 is not available. Please leave a message, right? But it will take messages.
Mhm.
But you can
Okay.
check your voicemail by obviously pressing that message button on the front of your phone. It's going to ask you for a
Mhm.
PIN number. Your PIN number
Okay.
usually is the same as your extension number or 4 zeros. Typically, it's your extension number. Okay. And
Okay.
you can reset that at any time. There's instructions right here for how to change your PIN. I will also show you in administrator training how you can reset that PIN for people. So once
Okay.
you have your phone on your desk and it's ready to go, you can record a personal greeting that will override that default one. So you just press 3 for personal options. Oh,
Oh,
oh, sorry
bless
about
you.
that. Yeah. You press 3 for personal options and 1 to record your voicemail greeting. Of course, your phone will take voicemail messages even if you don't do this step. Okay. Sometimes
Right.
that's the first thing people want to do, though. So there's those are instructions. Okay. Down here, checking your voicemail messages. There's 3 ways to check your messages from the system. The first one is obviously um, we have set up a voicemail to email. If you gave us an email address for the user, it will automatically forward a copy of their voicemails to their email inbox. You might be used to that feature from your old phone system. It's already set up to take care of this for you. Or you can check your messages in the app. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. Or you can always go to your desk phone and press the message button and enter your PIN. So 3 different ways to check your voicemail messages.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to come down here. Let's talk a little bit about placing outgoing calls. So, um, one thing about this phone system is you don't have to dial anything to get an outside line. All you have to do is either lift your handset or press that speaker button and enter the telephone number, right? You'll hear dial tone. If it's long distance, put the 1 in there. If it's an 800 number, put the 1 in there. I will
Mhm.
say if it's 816 or 913, if you put the area code in, usually it dials it just fine. Um,
Okay.
So no need to press anything. If you wanted to dial an extension number, you do the same thing and you just enter that person's 4-digit extension number. Right? It knows the difference between a full number and the 4-digit extension. If you have a headset, you can use that, and this just remember to put the headset button on. Usually people call me and they're like, "My headset's not working." I'm like, "Did you push the button?" As soon as you press it, it starts working. Um,
Okay.
this section here, and some of this is hard for me to train on because they don't you might notice I didn't talk about a transfer button or a hold button, and those are the ones you use the most
Mhm.
often. That's just because they're not fixed
Mhm.
buttons. They're soft keys on these phones. So when you're talking on the phone, when you're actually on a phone call, your buttons up here will change. The very first one that says call log will change and say X for. The one that says contact will say hold. So you can actually press these buttons when you want to transfer, right? They will only
Okay.
show up when you're actually on a phone call. So it's a little hard to train because I can't show you that.
Right.
But you'll see down here answering a call. I don't know why they tell me how to answer a call. Everyone knows how to answer a call. You can either lift your handset, press headset, or press speakerphone. Come down here. Right? So you can see transferring calls. There's 2 ways to transfer: cold transfer and a warm transfer. A cold transfer just means, hey, I want to send the call right to that person. It says press the X for soft key. So when you see soft key, it's referring to those 4 buttons along the bottom of the display, right? So you
Gotcha.
would press the X for soft key, enter the extension you want to transfer to. If you have a button for them, you can press that. And then you press the X for soft key again to complete the transfer.
Okay.
Okay? So it's always X for, enter the phone number, enter X for again, and it will send the call. This cold transfer is I'm just going to send the call right to them. Warm transfer is the
Mhm.
same buttons, but instead of hanging up, you press the transfer soft key, enter the number you want to send it to, and you wait for them to answer. So you can be like, "Hey, Bob, I've got Sue for you." And when Bob is like, "Yeah, no problem," then you press the X for soft key and it sends the call through to him. So same
Oh,
buttons. It's
okay.
just, do I want to talk to the person or not before I send the call through?
I gotcha.
Okay, so X for soft key. Come back up here. This is in a weird order. Um, you might notice the very first time your phone rings, the soft key changes while a call is ringing you. It'll say reject is the first button. Reject, if you press that soft key, it will send the caller through the voicemail and stop ringing your phone.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what reject means. A lot of times people are like, "Oh, what does that mean?" It rejects the call and makes it stop ringing and sends it right to your voicemail box. So, ending a call, we all know how to end a call, but there is even a soft key that says end call you can press. You can, of course, put your
Okay.
handset back in the cradle. You can press your headset button to end it, or you can press your speakerphone. But if you see the end
Okay.
call soft key, that just means hang up.
Right.
Holds another call or button that is not on there until you're on a call. But when you're on a call, you have a soft key that says hold. When you put a call on hold, it's going to wait there for 1 minute. After 1 minute, it will recall to you, so that it will just keep ringing to you until you take it or they hang up. Okay, so call you put on hold will never go to voicemail. If you want to get the call back before it rings back to you, there is a soft key that will say resume. You can press that and it will give you your held call back.
Okay.
Okay. And again, those are on that display right there where it's like the call history
That change.
buttons, your contacts
Yeah.
button.
The ones that change depending on what you're doing.
Yes. Uh-huh. Mute. We kind of talked about mute already. Again, press the mute button,
Mhm.
it lights up red. Come down here. So transferring again, X for soft key, enter the number you want to, press the X for soft key again. I will say if you have a button for somebody that's on page two, this is one of those times where you can absolutely press the X for soft key and then press this 1, 2, 3 button to get to the other page and then press the button. It doesn't mess up your call. The caller won't hear anything weird. Okay. So if you need to switch
Okay.
pages, you can do that. Call waiting. Of course, the system does have call waiting. If you're on a call already, when another call comes in, it just beeps at you. The display will change and show you that caller ID, but it just beeps. It doesn't do like a full ring at you. So that allows you to
Mhm.
then, there's a soft key that shows up that says answer. If you just press that, it automatically puts the first call on hold. And then when you're done with the second call, you can press resume and get back to your first call. So that row of keys is really helpful. It's a lot like your cell phone buttons. You'll be like, oh, I think I understand what that's going to do. So
Mhm.
um, if the second call rings you, you also get that reject option. So if you don't want to end the call you're on or put them on hold, just hit reject and it'll send it through to voicemail and stop the beeping at you.
Okay.
Volume, we talked about that already, plus and minus.
Mhm.
Speakerphone, obviously, when you're on speakerphone, which is you can press this button and you'll hear dial tone through your speaker. A lot of times people ask me, can I switch back and forth? So, absolutely. If you're talking on your speaker and you want to pick up the handset, just pick it up at any time. And if you want to switch when you're talking on your handset, as soon as you press this button, it will change and light up green, and you'll hear the person start coming through it, and you can just put your handset back down. Okay, so you can switch
Okay.
back and forth without you won't hang up on your call unless you hit it more than once.
Right. I gotcha.
Okay. Forwarding calls, a lot of people ask how to forward their calls. I like that we have the ability to do this, but I never use this. If I want to answer calls on my cell phone, I install the app and then all of my calls ring here when I'm logged into the app. Right. That way I don't have to go through all seven of these steps to forward my call. I just come here and log in and my calls will be here. It will ring at both my desk
Mm-hmm.
phone and my cell phone at the same time, as long as I'm logged in. If I don't want calls, like if I'm going home at night, I will log off of the app. Okay.
Okay.
So it's much easier than doing all of these steps, but you absolutely can do this. The problem with forwarding calls from your phone is you might forget that you've done it because it doesn't show up anywhere on your phone. And a lot of times
Right.
people are like, my calls aren't ringing anymore. And the first thing I'm going to have them do is come in and turn call forwarding off.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. Here's redial. You can see here it talks about press the redial button, or you can press that call log soft key because it shows you outbound
Mm-hmm.
calls as well. One of the buttons that you guys have, and I was going to double check. Um, Quite frequently, we put park calls or park keys on your phone. Basically, this is like a system hold that's pretty easy to use. So instead of transferring the call to another extension, you can actually park the call, and you'll have a button on your phone that says transfer park. Typically, it is this button right here, number 3. It says
Mm-hmm.
transfer park, and then you'll have park 1 and park 2 right here. And basically, what happens if you do transfer park, you're going to press one of the park buttons that's green. Green means that that's available. When you have a call parked there, it turns red. So if a button is red, that means there's already a call there. The nice thing is, though, that once you've done this, it lights up red on all of the phones. So you can go to any phone. And then if you want to pick up a parked call, you just go up to the phone and press the one that's lit red, and you'll get your call. So it's kind of an easy way to get calls to people without having to transfer. So I use it a lot if I can see, like, Keith is never at his desk. I can hear him right now. He's over here. So a lot of times I would do transfer park, and then I would just holler at him and I'd be like, Keith, there's a call parked on 1 for you. He can go to any phone and press that park 1 button because it's lit up and get the call.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't have to use it if you don't want to. And I was just going to pop in here and make sure, see if you have them programmed. Um, they are handy to use if you need to get calls quickly to other people. Okay,
I mean, generally, there's only
down
two of
here,
us here in the office on any given
yeah,
day, so you know.
you
So,
can just holler at each other
m-
anyway.
m-
But sometimes this is easier,
yeah,
just so then
yeah,
when that person comes back, you can say,
yeah,
"Hey,
I could
there's a
see
call
that. I could
two
see
for you."
it be easier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, So down here at the bottom of all our user guides, you can see it's got our phone number. I know you guys know our phone numbers, but I like to point this out. If
yeah,
for some reason you need anything, on the 11th, my technicians will be on site. He'll come and he'll put the phones in, but eventually he will leave, right? So after he leaves, if
yeah.
anything ever happens, you can call us on this phone number. Or if you have any
Okay.
questions or just something that's maybe not an emergency, you can email us at service@counterkc.com. I will let you know if
Mhm.
you have something that you need help with immediately, or something's down, call us, just because that's the fastest way to
Okay.
get service. We check the emails
Sure.
from 8 to 4:30, but of course sometimes our average answer speed's usually like 8 to 11 minutes for emails, but sometimes you never know.
Good.
If it takes an
Yeah.
hour
No.
for us to get to you, I don't want you being down for an hour. I'd rather you call because
Yeah.
we're always answered.
Yeah.
You press 3 for
Yeah. If
service and someone
it's
will help you.
yeah. Absolutely. Okay.
Okay. So really quickly, let me hop over here and just show you this user guide. So I don't know if you guys will want to do this or not, but these are included with your system the way it is. So obviously he'll come and put in desk phones, but you can also use these apps. This is the link that you can click to go download the apps.
Mhm.
Just want to show you what that looks like. When you go here, it lets you know, hey, if you want it on your mobile, you either go to Google Play or your App Store and it will download the app. Or you can load it on your computer. I'm going to show you the computer one. Or you can just run it in Chrome, and it would be like you would log into a browser every day. I have the
Yeah.
Windows version installed on my computer, and that's what I'm going to show you. Your login, it sent it to you in an email. If for some reason you didn't get it, that's okay. Your username is your email address. And you can just click forgot password and it will re-email it to you. That's the easiest way to get it back. It gives you a temporary one. When you first sign in, it immediately makes you change it to be something personalized.
Okay.
Okay. So the apps are very similar. They have the same features inside of them. On the desktop, it's all of the options are on the left hand side here. On the mobile app, they're along the bottom. Okay. But they have all
Okay.
of the same features. So I'm going to really quick close this and I'm going to show you my app. So I have a couple of extra icons that I'm going to skip over. Your icons will start with this one, which is messaging. Messaging is handy if, say, like Julie, she says she's offline. So her little icon here is gray, and that's because she left. She went to a lunch appointment. She'll be back later. So I can know that she's not here.
Mhm.
But what I could do is message her. So maybe I needed to remember to tell her something. I could just send her a quick message and it would be here waiting for her when she gets back. Or like down here, you can see here's Jenny. Jenny is green. That means she's available. If she were on a call or in a meeting, it'd be red. So I would know that.
Okay.
But the nice thing is I could just send her a quick message. Of course, there's emojis, there's GIFs built into here. A lot of times you can
Mhm.
see we message each other when we just have a quick question instead of talking on the phone. But I do have the ability
Yeah.
from here, if I click this, it will call her. If this can be tied to my desk phone, it would off hook my desk phone and call her. So then I could talk to her if I wanted to. I could even do
Okay.
a meet now and that would do a video like we're doing. So we could share our screen. Jenny and I do that a lot because
Mhm.
she'll be working on something for a customer. She'll be like, "What is this?" And I'm like, "Show me your screen." So we'll click the meet now button. She'll share her screen and I can see what she's working on. Very handy to
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Over here, if I click the plus button, you can see new direct message. That's a one-on-one with somebody else. A new channel would be a group message. If you wanted to, you could have more people in a group because you can also do new SMS. So this lets you text with outside phone numbers, which is kind of nice because it's going to show up as your direct line, your gym's management line, not your main phone number, but your personal number.
Mhm.
But it is
Mhm.
nice if you wanted to, you could chat with somebody else that's outside of the system. Okay, you just enter their phone number
Okay.
and do start conversation. You can also name those group chats. Like I have some group chats for some, to have 6 members of this, and it's for projects that we're working on. Just makes it easy to keep track of things.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over here, I have this icon that looks like a little camcorder. This is my meetings app. Um, I have a meeting that's always open. This is mine. Yours will show / a bunch of letters and numbers. I clicked the pencil and I made it say Amanda Elevate. That way it was just easier than whatever gobbledygook. It was like 12 digits. And
Right.
I could never remember that, but I can remember this one. So anytime I want to
Right.
have a meeting with someone like the one we're in right now, I will create an invite in my Outlook, just like or whatever I could use iCal or my Google Calendar. And I do this. I copy
Uh-huh.
my info and I paste it into the meeting. And then that way when I'm ready to start the meeting, usually this says start, but we're in one right now, so it says enter. But I'd come here, I
Right.
click the button. It opens up my meeting like we're in right now. And I
Mhm.
have the ability to, I can host a meeting, I can screen share, I can turn my camera on and off. There's built-in backgrounds you can have. I can do the recording like we are now. I can also
Mhm.
add this virtual assistant in here. She
Mhm.
is AI and she'll take notes for you. It sends you a transcription of the entire meeting, which is kind of nice. If I were to
Mhm.
say, "Hey, Penny, I need you to send me that email by Friday," it will call that action out as an action item because it knew that I said, "Hey, you needed to do something." So this is kind of fun to have. But
Mhm.
I can have up to 100 people on this call, which is way more than I've ever had. But that's another
Mhm.
feature that's just built into your user that you have that you can use all the time.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay.
Always open. I just copy the information and I try not to book meetings back to back because if people are early, if I had another meeting at 2 o'clock right after this, sometimes those people might start getting there earlier. So I just try to make sure I don't book meetings back to back.
Right.
Give them a few
Okay.
minutes in between. Let's see. The next one that you're going to have here is files. You won't have the one above this. Files, this replaced Dropbox for me. You can use it if you want to. If you don't ever use it, totally fine. You have 160 gigabytes of storage available to you. I usually put
Okay.
files that are too big to email to users here. So like when I send you the training links, I'm gonna
Mhm.
get the I drag and drop whatever file I want here, and then I get the link, and I can email you the link, and it allows you to safely download that um, because it's too big for me to email to you. So handy
Now let
just
me
to
ask you
have
a
you.
question about.
Yeah,
Oh, I was gonna say.
go ahead.
So, like, you kind of akin this to Dropbox. So,
Hmm.
would so let's say I would have my files under my login, so
Hmm.
only I could access those files, or would those files,
Hmm.
or these go into like a library that anybody with the company could access?
This is per user, really. These are your personal
Okay.
links. Okay.
Okay. Okay. No.
Okay. Let's see here. Call history. Just same way I have the call history on the phone, I have access to it here, which is kind of helpful.
Okay.
So I can go back in time and be like, oh, I needed to call Amanda Davis back. If I come here, I have the choice to either message her because she's an internal person, or I can push the blue phone
Mhm.
icon and I could call her back, right, which is kind of nice. Up here, you can see missed calls like, oh, I forgot that I missed that call from Verticom. Let me call them back. You also have the ability to report numbers as spam or block them. If you
Okay.
block them, it puts them in a blocked list underneath your settings. If you report them as spam, it flags them for the carriers and reports them as spam. So make sure it's really spam when you're doing
Okay.
that. And then this is my favorite. This is voicemail. So inside of my apps, even on my mobile phone, I have the ability to see my voicemails here. It transcribes them for me so that I can, like, oh, I don't even really need to see this email. If I wanted to, I could pop down here and delete it. I could also hit play and it would play it would off hook my desk phone, or play on my
Okay.
speakers on my computer if I have it set to do that. But I also can just call the person back. So nice thing is I can come here, it asks, do I want to delete it? Go ahead and delete
Mhm.
that. And then puts the light out on my phone. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question that may be totally
Mm-hmm.
stupid, but okay.
No.
So if I have this app on my computer, like what you're showing,
Mm-hmm.
like what's on your computer, if
Mm-hmm.
I hit the phone to call them, does the phone call them, or do I have to literally call them, or does it call them off
Um,
off the desktop?
So when you first install the app, see, I clicked my face over here. Yours will just be your initials. When you click your face, you can,
Mhm.
of course, add a picture here. But the very first thing when you
Sure.
install the app, it asks you this question: what device do you want
Okay.
to use to make calls? And you can change it at any time. So I can either say, hey, I want
Okay.
to use my desk phone, and then it will use that for audio, right? And it knows my desk phone.
Okay.
Or if you want to, you can just use your computer. And then if you have a
Yeah.
headset, so that's what I'm using right now, then it's all
Uh-huh.
through my computer and I never touch my desk phone.
I gotcha.
But
Okay.
if you use your desk phone, I always check this box that says off hook auto. That way, my phone, as soon as I press the button to call somebody, it off hooks my speaker phone and I can just pick up my handset. Like I'd be like, okay, and now I'm talking to somebody, or I can talk on speaker,
Okay.
right?
So it'll
So
initiate the call through the computer, and then you just pick up the handset.
that's right.
Perfect.
If you
That's
don't
pretty
check
cool.
this box, it is cool. If for some reason
Uh,
you don't check this box though, the phone rings first and you have to answer it and then it will place your call. So that's annoying to me. So I just check this.
so it's like, yeah, it's like the operator is calling you to connect.
Yeah. It's just like doing a little bridge,
Okay.
like, oh, here you go. But it works either way. Right? Completely up to
Yeah.
you.
All right. Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Um, okay. So let's go back here. This is the one I'm on the most time. So calling. Here's all my Elevate users. So these are all the people inside my office. But you can also add
Mm-hmm.
contacts. So these personal contacts, these are people that I call a lot. So I added them in here. You can see they're outside people,
Okay.
but then that way I can come and call them quickly, right? The other
Mm-hmm.
thing that I have here is you can type any phone number here. You can either use this to dial, or you can use the keypad on
Mm-hmm.
your computer. Like
Okay.
I use the keypad on my computer there, and then you can hit
Yeah.
this button, or you can hit enter. Okay, let me mute this or get some feedback. So I just did an outbound call to my cell phone just so you could see, like when I'm on an active call,
Mm-hmm.
makes this big blue bar here. When a call rings me, it puts their caller ID information up here as well. Okay. If I
Mhm.
don't have my Elevate app at the front, it will make a little toaster down here that's like, here's a phone number, and then you can answer it down there, and then it will pop the whole app for you.
Okay.
But you can see I have a lot of those same options I did for my phone. So you can do it in either
Mhm.
place. Like I can press mute here and it will mute my phone. Hold. Here is a keypad. Like if you called Walgreens to fill a prescription, you have to, when it's like
Mhm.
press two, you have to click here and press this two. A lot of times what
Okay.
people will do is they'll come over here, but this isn't on the active call. You have to actually do the keypad on the active call so it sends the sound. So the other phone
I got
system
you.
recognizes that you
Right.
pressed two.
Right.
Here I have this button that's called flip. I added my cell phone to my phone numbers. When I hit flip, I could actually take this call. It would call my cell phone. I could answer it and I could walk away. It basically is just transferring it right to my
Mhm.
cell phone so that I could leave if I needed to. I also have the ability here to park. So if I press this, it's always going to put it in park slot one first, because you notice I don't have park one or two buttons. So you don't really have a
Uh,
choice of where it parks. It's always just going to park in order. But then all the phones would still have park one lit everywhere. So, but the nice thing
okay.
is you can do it in either place. I can answer it here, but then transfer and do everything on my phone if I wanted to. But I can also transfer from here. I like to transfer from here as watch transfer. It says, "Hey, Amanda, I'm in transfer mode." And if I wanted to transfer to somebody, I can see, hey, look, she's available. There's another Amanda here. Keith, he's available. But here, Bill, look, Bill says he's away since 1:30. That's because he's at another customer location. But I can do a warm transfer
Mhm.
or a blind transfer, or I can send it right to his voicemail if I wanted to. Right. So
Oh,
I can
okay.
do all these things right from this. If I did a warm
Okay.
transfer, my phone would off hook. It would call him. I can wait for him to answer. And it'll walk you through all of it up here. It'll be like, do I want to cancel this transfer? This would take me back to the person. Um, if I wanted to do a conference call, I could do add a call here. It's just like hitting the conference soft key, or I can hang up. I'm gonna
Mhm.
hang up.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so I really like to use the app on my computer with my desk phone. It's just handy because I'm already on my
Mhm.
computer. And if I want to call somebody, it's just easy to be like, here, let me call.
Yeah. I can definitely see that.
hmm so here underneath settings, you can change your picture. You can set your status message. So I could add a second line of text here if I wanted to. And then the other person in the office would see this when they look at you. Right. So like I'm gonna put in training until 2 p.m. I hit the check mark and now everyone can see that message when they look at their when they look at me here. So like Bill, he has one.
Mhm.
It says 404 status not found because he's funny. But mine would say training until 2, so you would know that.
I got you.
A couple other things. Over here, there's a bunch of settings, but when you first install the app on your cell phone, it asks you a bunch of questions. It's like, do you want to allow this? Say yes to everything. Just say yes, 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 yes,
Oh,
so that it installs and
okay.
it gets through everything. You can then come into application settings, and if it's dinging at you and you don't want it to, you can uncheck where it dings at you when you have an inbound call, right? You can do the same
Right.
thing in your app, but it's best to just say yes to everything. For the desktop app, I always suggest that you do this where it says keep or on close, keep it running. So if I press this button, it doesn't actually exit the program. It just minimizes it. And now, if I
Okay.
want to get back to it or I get another phone call, it's just going to open back up for me. But it's down here in my tray. You can see this little icon, and I can open it back up
Mhm.
at any time. That's just handy. That way, you're not closing it. I also have
I
mine
got you.
open when I reboot my computer, so run when system starts, but you can change those at any time.
Yeah. Okay.
I also have here voicemail settings. You can see you can change your PIN from here if you needed to.
Okay.
You can also play. I have a custom greeting in here. If I didn't, it would say default greeting, but I could play it. Um, if I click this, it pulls up my instruction and reminds me, hey, this is how you can record that. I can even press this button and it will off hook my phone and call voicemail for you. So you don't even have to push the
Oh,
button. You just click.
wow. Okay.
Okay. So voicemail settings. Um, there's a ton of stuff in here. Audio settings. This is where you would, if you wanted to use your computer for the audio, you just have to make sure you have a headset and that it recognizes your headset. Otherwise, it's going to use the
Okay.
speaker on your computer, which works too, but it's always on speaker. You can't ever close off the sound. So, like this headset is a Yealink
Mhm.
one. It works really well. So, I mean, I'm in a cubicle, so it's always noisy, but they work really good. So, I use my computer
Yeah,
only for a lot. My phone is actually in a drawer behind me. I don't even have it plugged in.
that's fine.
I
That
only
makes
get it out
sense,
when I
though.
need to test something. Yeah, that's easier.
Oh,
And then I also like if the power went out here, I could just take my computer or I could even just walk off with my cell phone. And because this it's cloud system, the servers are in Philadelphia. So even if there was a
mhm.
horrible storm and it wiped out this building, I can still answer my calls on my cell phone or I could take my log in from my computer anywhere and I can make and
Yeah,
take calls just like you were in the office.
right. Right. That's good to know.
Hmm. Okay. I know that was a lot. This is recorded. I'm going to send you a link so you can save it.
Okay.
Um,
Will I get a
Trevor
copy
also,
of the handbook thing too that you're kind of going through? Is that
yes.
is that like a book, you know, a virtual
It's just
book maybe would be the way to say it?
yeah, they're just PDFs. Trevor probably sent them to you,
Yeah.
but I will resend them when I
Mm.
send the
Okay.
recording, okay?
Yeah,
And I'll
absolutely. That'd be
attach
perfect.
the app one and I'll also attach the phone one. And I usually throw
Okay.
in an Elevate meeting, the meeting one that's a separate one, just in case you ever want to use it. It's kind of more detailed just about this functionality.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay? All
Yeah,
right.
I'm thinking that online meeting and it's good. It might come in handy with the supervisors because our thing is in the office pretty much Monday through Friday. It's me and Lauren and Sandy, and they do like payables and receivables. I do
Mm-hmm.
payroll and onboarding and whatever else. But then we have supervisors that are in and out, but they're in their stores more often than not. So I
Mm-hmm.
can see where it might be a little more handy than some of those other meeting app
Uh-huh.
programs. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because if we're
Absolutely.
all on the same phone, then it's not a big. It seems like it's going to make it that a little easier if
Yep.
I can get my words to work today.
Yep.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
so we're excited. I mean, other than the fact that we've only had half working phones for a month, we're excited about the new phones too.
Good, good. So you go live on the 11th. Again,
Okay.
Trevor will be out there to plug the phones in and he'll do test calls
All
and make
right.
sure everything's working. If
Perfect.
you have any questions, you can ask him, but you can always email us. We keep your project open for
Okay.
2 weeks after you go live so that we'll just keep working off the
All right.
project. But after that, if something comes up, we'll just open tickets and get you over to a technician. You've talked to Steven before. He can help with a lot of problems when you call in anyway. So
Yeah.
um,
And
we're
most
always here
most
if
of the
you
time,
need
it's just
something.
a reboot thing. All right.
Yep.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Okay. Well, have a good
All right.
afternoon. Thank you, Penny.
All right. Thank you too.
Uh-huh.
Bye now.
Bye.